Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there. My gosh. Wow. Hello. It's me, Lynn Cullen. It's May 19th, the day after the May primary, and a true bombshell of an election with the ouster of two-term incumbent Bill Peduto. I want to tell you a little story about last night. I took my dog out for a walk. It was about 8:45. And we walked a long time, and I found myself walking up Bill Peduto's street, which I often do. And I was thinking that one of the problems, I think, that happened, I was trying to figure out how he lost his way, in a way, how he was co-opted by the powerful and lost his connection to the people, I mean, in as much as he had a connection with the people, they were people who were representatives of the people who were politically active. But as far as Bill sort of having a sense of what non-political Pittsburghers, just everyday folks, were feeling, were thinking, were worrying about, I don't think he had a clue anymore. And when I was walking, I was thinking, where did he... And then I thought of one thing as I approached his house. There is, when I'm walking on that street, and it's one street over, essentially, from where I live, so it's not stalking him. There is often a Pittsburgh police car there, in front of his house or a little bit up from his house. And it's strange, but often I will see the car come, I'll see the car go, and I realized over the last few years seeing that was he didn't, I guess, drive himself. He was driven everywhere in a Pittsburgh police vehicle by Pittsburgh police. I assume his security are Pittsburgh police officers. And, you know, one of my complaints about him, and one of the reasons I did not vote for him, was because of the way he handled the Black Lives Matter protests here, because of his, I felt, deference to the police when I didn't think they deserved deference. And I kept thinking, you know, if you ride every day, 7 days a week, month after month, with cops, and you start really bonding with those cops, and you trust them with your life, I think that's part of where he had trouble. And it was odd, because as I approached his house last night, I initially didn't see the car. And then I did. It was for some reason, it didn't look like the others. It was not painted in the same way. And I had to look twice at it to make sure it was Pittsburgh police. And it was. And it was parked right in front of his house. And I thought, so he's in there. He's waiting. And I had been counting the Peduto signs on my walk and the Gainey signs. in Peduto's neighborhood. And Peduto had, I think my final count was 2 more signs than Gainey, but very few Peduto signs in his own neighborhood in Point Breeze. And as I walked, I thought, I'd been having this feeling. I think you sort of know that. I think he's going to lose. He's going to lose. I felt it. Now, I voted for Ed Gainey. I don't know much about Ed Gainey. I will admit my vote for Ed Gainey was a vote against Bill Peduto. Because although I know him to be a good man, a conscientious, hardworking public servant, 8 years is enough. And while he did many good things, he got, to my mind, just totally absorbed into the power structure of the city that doesn't give a hoot about the regular people. It gives a hoot about all the rich people they know, about the connected people they know. But most of the rest are not uppermost in their minds or in their priorities. And I feel that Bill Peduto, like every Pittsburgh mayor I have ever seen, was co-opted by the nonprofits, the Eds and the Meds, the big universities, UPMC, the corporations, and the developers. And that ain't the people. I am hoping that Ed Gainey will be able to resist that co-option. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if I'm being naive. If this is the case in every city in the country, almost in the world, this is how things work. The rich control everything, and they don't give a hoot about the lesser of us. I say lesser, meaning money, people who don't have it, and consequently don't have power. But you know what? What yesterday proved is people who have a vote collectively have great power. So the people spoke yesterday. And it was higher turnout than in a normal midterm election. And I'll tell you what, I think that those Black Lives Matter protesters who really, really were let down by Mayor Peduto, I think they're behind this upset. Because they became a very galvanized activist force of young people who had not necessarily been politically active or gone to the polls before. And Black Lives Matter committed them to getting active in politics. And I think yesterday's election is a huge shift in that you see the first presumptive black mayor of Pittsburgh. I had said since I've lived here that Pittsburgh will never elect a black mayor. Still hasn't. This is a primary. I want to get to that later. But if you look at all those judges, all the judges' races, my gosh, most of the progressive, really progressive candidates won. 6 of the 9 on the Democratic primary ballot for common pleas were women. 4 of those were black. This has the potential of changing the face of our judiciary. And this is how change happens. And these young people have finally gotten the message. Now, I said presumptive mayor because this was a primary. There's a general election, of course, in November. And the Republicans had nobody up for mayor. I guess people were writing people in. So maybe some guy we don't know yet won by just having more write-in votes than anybody else. But I wonder if the powers that be worried that Gainey might not be as co-optable as other mayors have been. I wonder if they're now busily chattering and working on finding somebody who will run as an independent against Gainey in the general election. If they're really smart, they'll find somebody who's black. But odds are that Ed Gainey is going to be the next mayor of Pittsburgh. And wow, that is historic. Historic. I hope he's up to it. I hope he surrounds himself with really good people. And I hope the powers that be understand that the little people are really hurting and that they are fighting back in every way that they can, taking to the streets in peaceful protest and going to the ballot. A collective action that is the foundation of a democracy, where the little people can take out the powerful people who are not listening anymore. I don't know. I'd be interested in hearing what you guys think. I think another brilliant thing that happened on the part of these activists is that they had 2 referenda on the ballot. And both those referenda were written in a way that anyone who cares about racial and social justice issues would be drawn to the polls to vote for these referenda. One having to do with solitary confinement and other noxious restraint procedures used apparently all too liberally at the Allegheny County Jail, and also the banning of no-knock warrants by the Pittsburgh police. Both of those coming out of the Black Lives Matter movement, both of those pulling people to the polls, and both of those winning overwhelmingly. This wasn't your grandma's election. You know, we always used to say, oh, those old people, those old white people, they vote every time. It's why we're where we're at. And the young people don't vote. Well, my sense of what happened is that the young people and those who support their dreams and hopes for a better future, because they've been handed a raw, rough hand. They and those who care about them, I think, voted more than the old white people did. I am an empath by nature, so part of me feels sorry for Bill Peduto. As I said, I think a good man and a guy who worked hard. It's hard to be rejected. And he was. And he handled it incredibly well. I can't believe how swiftly he conceded. He conceded when I don't even think 50% of the vote was in. Not sure about that, but there was no drawn-out thing. He conceded really stunningly early. And he says he will work to get Ed Gainey elected. He has said all the right things. We'll see. I saw Rich Fitzgerald in the background of some photos. Boy, he looked freaked. And I suppose he should, although he has the benefit of a county electorate as opposed to just the city electorate. But, you know, the old boy network, the Pittsburgh power structure, took one on the chin yesterday. And, you know, we have yet to see what that will bring, but I think it's good. I think it's really good. And I want to say that it is rare for this city's black community to have reason to celebrate. I saw a statistic today that said, with all the, the crunching of numbers that the University of Pittsburgh has done over the years, looking at the state of black Pittsburgh, quantifying it, what it boils down to is that a black person in Pittsburgh who packed up and left, as we know many, many, many have. In fact, we know, 6,000 have in just the last 5 years. It's another indictment of Peduto's administration. That kind of an out-migration. And it said that, and this is, I think, mind-blowing, that a black Pittsburgher packing his or her bags and moving almost anywhere else in this country, any other city in this country, will immediately enjoy a better quality of life. And the entire time I've lived in this city, no one has dealt with that damning reality. No one in the mayor's office. No one. They pay lip service to it, but nothing changes. In fact, it seems to get worse. And so I am so happy for Pittsburgh's black community that we suspect, will soon be able to look at the most powerful person in Pittsburgh politically, and it is a black man from Lincoln, Leamington. It ain't enough, but it's a start. I think I have a call. Caller, go ahead, please.
Hi, Lynn. Good morning. It's David. How are you?
I'm fine. How you doing?
You sound relieved. I don't know. I'm a little bit relieved.
Well, I'm happy. I have to admit, I mean, I wasn't as shocked as a lot of people probably were, because I was just getting this feeling walking in the neighborhood, thinking this doesn't look like it should look if Bill Peduto is going to win.
See, maybe 6,000 white people will leave Pittsburgh in the next 4 years. I don't. Possible. I mean, that whole discussion about, you know, the people being pushed out of East Liberty, and where are they going to go? Well, maybe they'll end up coming back to East Liberty. I mean, there's a possibility.
I don't see how they can't afford to live in East Liberty anymore.
Yeah, the housing, it's crazy. Whenever they just basically knocked down, I don't know how many units was that in East Liberty that disappeared.
Well, I mean, just huge. I mean, they just keep, yes. Now they do build some new, and one would say it looks certainly nicer, but there's not enough of it, and it apparently isn't affordable enough. You wouldn't have this incredible loss of black people, you know, getting the hell out of here.
Yeah.
They can't afford to live here, or they're sick and tired of living in this town because, well, it's just a race.
Pregnant girls.
I don't, but I know of such homes. Yeah.
Well, the county ran this operation.
Yeah.
And it was you know, these young women that had been dispossessed due to pregnancy. It was a place where they could have their kids and, I don't know, make the decision, I guess, on whether to give them away or not. And it's since become it's called Hearth, and it's for battered women. And because they've had the experience, the suburban experience, Mount Royal Boulevard goes through Shaler, and that's where this Hearth is at, what used to be the Zor home. And there at least appears to be a lot more affordable housing that's right along that bus route. Now there's still a food desert there, but it's not as bad. A little Coons supermarket opened not too far from that route there, and people can get on that bus and get their groceries and go home, you know. And so it's kind of a neat thing. And but Shaler is where a lot of the affordable housing is at, and that's where the marching was going on, the Black Lives Matter demonstration.
Yeah, that was counter. And there were counter protests.
Yep, exactly.
Ugly counter protests.
And that's
people screaming at a little black boy who was, I guess, trying to speak. Yeah.
Yep. And that
was Shaler.
And that's the whiplash thing. That's, I think that one is related to the other. That there are more poor people because they have to move out. Maybe having friends at Hearth or having to go to Hearth themselves for protection for whatever amount of time they're allowed to stay there. I'm not sure the details, but that may have opened up that little area there, and I certainly hope that's the case.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to put too much on this one election and how it suggests change, but I do think that we all know now we are not living, this last few years, we are not living in normal times in our country. And people are very much awake.
At the polls yesterday, it was split between the elderly voter and the young people.
Really?
And
I voted by mail, so I never saw what was happening at the polling places. But I just have a sense, even from my own son, that young people have been awakened by George Floyd's death, by the Black Lives Matter protests. And those protests, for those who never went to one, were all like, they were like teach-ins from back in the anti-Vietnam War days. They were speaker after speaker informing these young people about the realities, about what was and how things worked. And I was blown away, the one that I did go to, which, by the way, stopped in front of Bill Peduto's house.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, well, there are a number of them that stopped in front of his house. And then they started, teaching. And they were teaching about bills that were in the legislature, and they were teaching about how things work. And man, those kids, black and white, were just sitting there paying incredible attention. Okay. So there's a whole new bunch of young activists that are taking leadership roles, that are, I hope to hell, I don't think they're going to all of a sudden stop. This win yesterday is going to energize them more and show them, hey, this works. If we get active, we can change things. And that's what's so wonderful about yesterday.
Well, I was very surprised that there were so many young people voting yesterday.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's 200. We had 215 people vote, and we thought maybe a very anemic, 75, 80 people. I brought a book to read. I mean, I didn't have an opportunity to pick up a book the whole time I was at the polls yesterday.
So you worked the poll, yeah.
I was, my wife and I were working the poll.
Okay, and so you had a much bigger turnout than you expected, and you saw
much bigger
and younger.
And a younger crowd than I expected.
Okay.
And
that's exactly what I assumed.
Split pretty much down the middle, Democrat and Republican.
Well, thank you for that, and thanks for you and your wife's work.
Well, we're going to keep doing it. So.
Good for you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I got this from William. I wish his name was Alan. He's talking about Gainey. I wish his name was Alan instead of Ed, because that would make more sense to me. A mayor of Pittsburgh named Alan Gainey. All right. Strange the way some heads work. And then William says, I also hope he doesn't make me wish I voted for Moreno, or whatever the hell his name was. No, you should never have voted for that guy. And so I'm assuming that your vote was an anti-Peduto vote too. And you know, I hate when I go to the polls and I vote against someone as opposed to for someone, and it's not, again, as if I'm voting against the man, Bill Peduto, because I like him and I respect him. I'm voting against seems like the inevitability that happens when you're 8 years in a position where you got to deal with the high and mighty all the time, because they're the ones who make things work, and they wear you down. They wear you down, I guess. So, again, don't get ahead of ourselves. Ed Gainey the word is presumptive. Oh, William says, no, I voted for Peduto. I'm just kidding. Okay, all right. I didn't get the joke, but I like the Alan Gainey. So anyway, that's what I have to say, I guess, about that. I will eagerly await more of the number crunching that some of the political reporters will be doing to get a sense of where Gainey's support came from. He had a lot of support in Bill Peduto's neighborhood. I'm telling you that. The signs didn't just say it. I believe the numbers showed it too. So we'll see. I guess it's a warning to all you pals that things are changing. Young people have awakened. They're struggling, and they're mad, and they're active, and they are going to continue to be active. I saw on Twitter someone say, so I guess Pittsburgh's not a racist town anymore if we're going to have a black mayor. I mean, only 25% of the population's black, and we're going to have a black mayor. Yeah, right. It doesn't say anything about the systemic racism in this city that runs like the three rivers through this city's political reality and corporate reality, and in every way. And just as the election of Barack Obama did not mean that the United States was not a country that had a systemic racism problem. As a matter of fact, it was the election of Barack Obama and then the unbelievable re-election of this black man that galvanized America's racism and its racists. And they're going full-throated, full throttle now. Donald Trump would never have been the president of the United States if Barack Obama had not preceded him. So, got to get to the obit of the day because it's one of our own. You know, we lay claim to anyone who, by happenstance, gets born and raised here, and that, of course, is one of the funniest actors who I just adored, Charles Grodin. East Liberty, I believe. I think the New York Times got something wrong in their obit. They say Charles Sidney Grodin was born on April 21, 1935 in Pittsburgh. Well, I think his name was Grodinsky. So I don't think Charles Sidney Grodin was born, because that wasn't his name. And that's a pretty big mistake for the paper to make. But I do think, like so many other actors who were Jews, you drop that part of the name that's going to identify you as such. But he grew up here. He dutifully went off to the University of Pittsburgh, where he lasted, a week or two. Then I don't know, he went to the University of Miami or something, and then he came back here and was at the Pittsburgh Playhouse. And eventually, it took him a while, because he wasn't, he was, I saw the perfect adjective for him. How the right word, this is, if you ever wondered the proper usage of this word, think of Charles Grodin, because it is him. He was droll, D-R-O-L-L. He could steal a scene without a word, with just his plastic face, with just a look of his, a change in his eyes or his eyebrows. He was wonderful. And I think, I know I see the headline in the New York Times says star of Beethoven and Heartbreak Kid. To me, the role that it just blew me away was Midnight Run with Robert De Niro. I think it's one of the funniest films ever. I guess it classifies as a buddy film. Normally I can do without buddy films, but man, that pair, simply wondrous. And if you've never seen it, make a point of seeing it. And I also loved him in another film I love so much, the one starring Warren Beatty. Why am I blanking on the name? It wasn't a big role, but every time he's in a scene, I'm telling you, he steals it. I'll be darned if I can think of that wonderful movie about the guy who inadvertently is, Heaven Can Wait. That's a movie that's been made and remade and then made again. Russ writes, I think the Marino actually took enough Peduto votes to give it to Gainey. The majority of those votes would probably not have voted for Gainey and gone with Peduto had Marino not been in the race. I don't know, in absolute numbers, if you were to give all of Marino's votes to Peduto, does he then win? It wouldn't be that solid. But, I'm thinking of so many of these mayoral primaries in Pittsburgh where there are just too damn many people on the ballot. There are always people like this math tutor guy who did he get 1,000 votes? I don't think so. That, come in and, they take votes away from somebody who has a genuine shot. Marino did not have a genuine shot either, so yes, he would be a spoiler. But why would people who would never have voted for Gainey, Marino's voters would never have voted for Gainey. So why playing a spoiler role, would they then essentially, by voting for Marino, elect Gainey? It just doesn't make any sense. But then, of course, maybe they don't make any sense and then sort of, think it out clearly enough. Yeah, Aaron, you ask a good question, and I don't know. Aaron says, yesterday we heard from Roger, one of our audience and caller, that there were poll workers that weren't showing up because they were protesting the so-called, big lie or something. And Aaron saying, was that ever substantiated? Not that I'm aware of. I know that I immediately forwarded it to Ryan Dito. Ryan immediately got in touch with Roger. Roger gave him the information for the friend who was the poll worker, and the fact that I never saw anything suggests that it didn't pan out. I don't know. I mean, I've seen nothing. I don't know. I don't know. Wish I could be more helpful. Oh my God! Never doubt the New York Times? Jonathan. Grodin is correct. According to Wikipedia, his paternal grandfather changed the family name from Grodinsky to Grodin. So by the time he was brought into this world, he was a Grodin and not a Grodinsky. All right. Well, then I'll tell you who got it wrong. Where did I read the Grodinsky one? The Pittsburgh paper. Shame on them. Someone got it wrong and set me up like this. Oh, God. Okay. So I think I'm sort of talked out on this. Although I know I'm having friends over tonight and we'll be talking and talking and talking, and then I'll have friends tomorrow and we'll be talking and talking and talking. But I think I've said what I had to say. And speaking of Ryan Dito, speaking of City Paper, there was this, and it's a bit old, but it has to do with the Michael Lamb, the Pittsburgh controller, who did an audit of the Citizen Police Review Board. And man, it shows there's a chart that Lamb put together of all of the complaints within a 10-year period, I think from 2010 to 2019, of complaints brought before the Citizen Police Review Board, people who felt they had been mistreated by a Pittsburgh police officer. And if you look at these numbers, it's mind-blowing. Because what it shows, to me, is that there's about, we're always hearing it's bad apples. I mean, I don't know what you would consider a bad apple. Okay, you're a cop. How many times do you think someone would be so angry at the way they were treated by you that they would go through the process of drawing up a complaint about that? Now, it turns out that according to Lamb's count, 460 Pittsburgh police officers had one complaint lodged against them in that 10-year period. Now, I'm thinking those 460 are probably pretty good cops. In 10 years, if all that happened is one person was so angry that right. So 460 had received one complaint. The number drops to 215 when you ask how many had two complaints in a 10-year period. So that gives us like 775 Pittsburgh cops who've, had a complaint or two lodged against them. At what point do you think it's something that you would really flag? It also, I guess, depends on what the complaints are. But the number of complaints goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, okay? If a cop has had 10 complaints, should they still be on the force? I'm asking. If a cop has had 8 complaints lodged against them, should they still be on the force? Because 9 Pittsburgh police had 8. 13 cops had 7 complaints. 26 had 6. 45 had 5. I just don't know. Are you doing your job right? If that often somebody feels that aggrieved by an interaction with a person that's supposed to protect and serve them. And unbelievably, there is one officer here who had 57 complaints against him. 57 complaints. No one even close. The next closest are 2 officers who've had 15 complaints. Why would an officer still be on the force to rack up that kind of accomplishment? Why? But the audit that Lamb did showcases that it is not the entire police force. It is a relatively small number of officers who receive an outsized share of the complaints for infractions. Pittsburgh police officer Paul Abel, who was videotaped being a bad cop on more than one occasion and finally let go just recently, he had more than a dozen complaints during his tenure, and he should not have been on the force to collect that many. So you got to wonder about these guys. And there's, you could add up a good 100 of them, almost 100, who've had more than 5 complaints. Okay, so that's something that caught my eye and made me ask some pretty obvious questions like, what WTF? What's going on? If the Citizen Police Review Board can see the same names cross their desks constantly and those officers remain on the force. Shouldn't be. Wouldn't happen to almost anybody else in any other profession. Right? Right. I just said right. And then I said right again to agree with myself. Where am I? Oh, I'm sorry, but jeez. I have to, oh no, I'm not going to go there because I can't stand it. What's going on with the UFO stuff? Was I sleeping and all of a sudden the Navy, the Defense Department is actually letting us see some of these extraordinary videos they've taken of totally unexplainable, totally unexplainable actions by an object. Impossible as far as our ability to. I wish I could find this thing I saw. It was mind-blowing. And I'm looking at some footage right now that was photographed by some guys in the Navy. They were aboard the USS Omaha. They were off the coast of California. And man, they're watching this thing and they don't have a clue. It is this sort of cylindrical black thing hovering right above the ocean. And it's moving sort of a little here, there, sort of skittering around right at the top. And then all of a sudden, it just friggin' disappears. Bang! It's gone. And they went looking to see if they could find it. They never found a thing. And it turns out there's a lot of these kinds of, they got videos of things that cannot be explained. And I'm wondering why all of a sudden there's this willingness to show us some of this stuff so that people who say, UFOs, I'm telling you, they're out there, are not going to be laughed at as much. And I, for one, won't be laughing. Now, why would... I can understand why governments of the world who might be aware of these sightings and incapable of explaining them would want to sit on them and not show the people because, because it would sow hysteria whipped up by media. So can you imagine social media on this? And I always thought that if you ever wanted to bring the world together, then, just like so many sci-fi movies, have the world, be threatened by another civilization from outer space so that we're all literally in it together and have to work together. But I think the calculation that has been made is that's not necessarily what would happen, I guess. But I'd be very curious. And I know presidents have said that, Barack Obama has said that he asked about it and was told that there are these sightings that they have no ability to comprehend. These whatever you want to call them, these UFOs performing in ways that are against our laws of physics and any kind of propulsion system we might have a clue about. So I don't know. Bree says the new term is UAP. What does that mean? Unidentified aerial The stigma of UFO still exists, so the name has changed. But what does it mean? Unidentified, astounding projectile. Unidentified aerial propulse. I don't know. Bree says, I followed this closely over the years. The willingness to show us is because the stories are being reframed as intrusions into restricted airspace, so it becomes a national security issue. All right, but what does UAP mean? Henry writes, Lynn, excuse me if you already covered this, but it was very disappointing to see that, oh my God, yes, thank you, I didn't cover it. Oh God, I think I repressed it. I repressed it. Well, we were enjoying, the results here in the city. If you bring in the rest of this Pennsyltucky, those two constitutional amendments that the Trump party put on the ballot that would essentially allow the Trumpistas, the General Assembly, to override the governor's powers to declare states of emergency and for how long and all of that. This has always been an executive power. This is being watched. This was watched by a lot of other states where the government is bought and owned by the Trumpers. And the fact that they pull this off here, they have emasculated in some respects the executive, and I'm stunned. I am stunned that anyone would think that would be a good idea. It was, of course, the pandemic that caused it, and what Republicans do is for something that it says that an executive order can stand for only, a few days as opposed to whatever is necessary, as if it could, I can't even talk about it. It just blows my mind. Henry says, effectively, this transfers emergency powers to the controlling party in the Pennsylvania legislature. Well, that has been the Trump party and will continue to be for a long, long time after they get done gerrymandering us again. The difference was only 139,000 votes, most of those coming from, the Kentucky part of Pennsyltucky. Middle of the state. That's right. Don't tell me I gotta wear a mask. That's where they were coming from. Bree, you still haven't told me what that means. Bree has said, though, based on all I've read and seen, this is not any special advanced force of the USA. There are several explanations. Oh, it is. I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Unidentified aerial phenomenon. Okay, that's the P. Oh, unidentified aerial phenomenon. Okay. And just wrapping things up, Bob and Braddock says what makes last night's primary win for Ed Gainey even sweeter is that the Penguins won the Stanley Cup playoff game as well. Yeah, they had to. Yeah, great. Good night for Pittsburgh. All right, you guys, that's it. Good Lord. I'll talk at you again tomorrow, okay? And enjoy this extraordinary weather. Okay, don't forget to water your plants. Bye-bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.